The subject of supernatural powers, or the so-called Siddhi in Sanskrit, has been a subject of curiosity among the yoga practitioners most of the time. And it also draws curiosity among the general public as well. Today, I will be talking to you on the various issues pertaining to the subject of the supernatural powers and what could probably be the mechanism behind them. At the outset, I would like to humbly submit I am not an accomplished yogi who has possessed any supernatural powers, neither I am good at certain subjects which I will be using them for the purpose of illustration. To illustrate this topic, I would like to take the example of general the economic growth of a human being. Of course, I'm as I said, I'm not an expert at the economics, and I'm only using it for the as an example to convey the point. If you see any net worth of any individual, what is the underlying asset? The underlying asset is obviously the amount of money he has, whether in various investments or whether he is directly holding it in the account. That is, you can say, the underlying asset. Now, whatever the individual lifestyle is obviously is related most often to the individual net worth. When I say the lifestyle, it may be something like the ecosystem around the individual. For example, when a person has got, let's say, some certain amount of money, he would like to wear clothes accordingly. The more money he has, he tends to wear expensive clothes, or the branded clothes, or the designer clothes. Similarly, the vehicle which he uses is also depends upon the amount of money he is holding, and the house in which he lives, the accommodation, etc. In a way, the whether it is clothes or the vehicle or the residence of the individual, they are all basically the ecosystem which have been created by virtue of the amount of money which he is holding. Now, let's assume a scenario. A person is very ambitious, and as he earns more money, he would like to wear more expensive clothes, possess an expensive vehicle, live in an expensive building, and so does his ecosystem around him. It continuously keeps growing up as the inflow of money increases. Now, there could be a situation where we keep hearing about many people who continue to live their simple lifestyle, although the underlying asset, that is money, must be growing in the bank account, but the lifestyle might continue to remain simple. Or there could be another situation where a person, in the pursuit of accumulation of money, he may have ended up in huge debts, and God has been kind that soon or sometime later, he could recover from all his liabilities. But then, as the inflow of money increases, maybe he wouldn't like to get stuck in debts once again. So maybe you will have a change of mind and you would like to lead a simple and humble life. So you see, although the underlying asset is money, it doesn't necessarily mean the, that the lifestyle of an individual will keep undergoing like a change. It may or may not. Some may prefer a simple lifestyle. But remember, there's no chance for any, so that you audience don't misunderstand it. I'm not talking about a beggar's philosophy in the sense that, let's say, an ordinary poor man, he also may be living a humble life or a simple life. But the point is, he doesn't have money in the first instance, even if he wants to indulge in a luxurious lifestyle. I'm talking of that kind of a situation where a person may be possessing the means, he may be having a huge bank balance, but he may still prefer to be living a simple life. I'm not talking of the general mad rush which people get themselves involved in. That means, as the inflow of money increases, the lifestyle keeps changing. I'm talking of those persons who may be having adequate wealth or money, but they may still be preferring to lead a simple lifestyle with a minimum requirement. Why I'm saying all this thing is, I would like to take the analogy of this when we talk about the supernatural powers which are possessed by a human being. When we talk about the supernatural powers, you need to understand that at the fundamental level, there is nothing known as supernatural and everything is natural. Now, we'll come to the conclusion as to what will happen when a person happens to receive certain, extraordinary powers. Do we classify them as supernatural powers? Yes. Some time ago, when we were not aware of such powers, we dubbed it as magic or supernatural. In the modern times, now we are mostly aware that some of them are classified as neurochemistry. Simply neurochemistry. So now first let us understand the core. When we say what is the when a human being takes birth, he is born with a certain genetic coding, a kind of a genetic code which is born with, and whatever the body inherits is based in accordance with the genetic code. Maybe even the kind of diseases he may develop in later years, everything could be related to the genetic code as per the modern science. When we talk about from yoga point of view, many a time it has been clarified, and all scriptures have been harping that the destiny of a human being is precisely based on the stockpile of karma which the person has carried forward from the previous birth. If that be the case, now the genetic code, the fundamental genetic code, or call it the blueprint of a human being, genetic blueprint, is inconsistent with the karma which has been accumulated and carried forward. If this be the case, now rest of the body which has been constructed around him, designed around him, whether it is intellect, his egoism, the kind of mind he has with all his emotional temperaments, and also the physical body is consistent with the genetic code of the person. Now, here is a crucial thing to understand. Now, some they point out that no, the modern science is now able to alter the genetic code, thereby bringing about changes in the physical body of the person. That may be possible, but that is also a part of the karma only. That means the genetic restructuring itself is part of the karma now. Since the karma is like that, the person has to undergo through that genetic restructuring in order to get himself freed from certain diseases. Anyway, that's beside the point. Now, when we talk about the karma of the individual, we say that it is because of the karma accumulated by the individual that the spirit, which is all powerful, which is at the core of every human being, it doesn't know its actual the power. The entire confusion is being caused because of their ignorance. So, what yoga is proposing? Yoga says that you eliminate that karma because of which the spirit is unable to realize its power. Then all power is yours, the so-called supernatural. Now here there are certain issues, however. Suppose a person has managed to, let's say, neutralize this karma. As he started neutralizing this karma, the supernatural powers too have started manifesting. Now the question is, can he use them for his materialistic benefits? Here, remember the analogy which I had just given you a little while ago. A person who has got so much of money in his account, yes, he can utilize it for whatever purpose he wants, if at all he desires. But what if he chooses to lead a simple life? Then he may not be using that particular underlying asset. Same is the case in case of yoga practice also. When a large chunk of karma has been neutralized, when the human being has started accessing that supernatural powers, we may not like to get into that rut again by using the powers and getting stuck in Maya once again. He may simply let his body remain the way it is, just like the person who is leading a simple life, although he has got plenty of cash in his bank account. So, in spite of the fact that the person has acquired supernatural powers, he may not like to restructure his genetic code. He may let it be so, the way it is, the way it has been all the time. Yes, his supernatural powers may be increasing, but he may not be touching any of those powers because he doesn't want to disturb this genetic structure or the genetic code. Consequently, the intellect, the mind, the physical body, it will remain as it is. Okay, there are some many instances where people say that what about those people who pursue certain tantric techniques and attain supernatural powers deliberately so that they can make use of them. Well, that can be akin to, again, I can give you the analogy of that person who has no bank balance. He can borrow money, he can borrow a loan. Yes, temporarily the bank balance will swell. And yes, he is free to use that bank balance for whatever purpose he wants to. But you all know what will happen, the consequences of that. You will now have to end up paying EMI, or you may end up in debts. Same is the case with the so-called temporary supernatural powers attained by any individual, by any tantric means, or by any other using any yoga techniques. If his intention is only to acquire the supernatural powers, yes, he may acquire them, but the consequences also will be severe and accordingly. Because in spiritual senses, the use of supernatural powers for materialistic benefits is a big no. The reason being, it will create karma for the person, which will be difficult to overcome or neutralize later on. Just like a person borrowing a huge loan, yes, he can use it. He can use the loan amount for any purpose if he wants. If not, say, generic personal loan, he may twist it and use it for some other purpose than for which the loan was sanctioned. That possibility is always there, but there is a borrowed strength. It's not a natural net worth of the person. So the same is the case in spiritual journey also. Any supernatural powers achieved by a person by virtue of chanting mantras, or by virtue of performing certain severe austerities, yes, those powers are temporary in nature, and they are not natural, and they will have a lifetime or either. And the consequences will be again severe. If you speak of Patanjali Yoga Sutras, the text clearly mentions the ancient Sanskrit text, which is supposed to be the most prominent authority on yoga, one of the prominent texts rather. It says that yes, supernatural powers can be attained by a person, and there are certain means, ways to do that. One is, of course, through the meditation practice. Of course, that will be a natural way of acquiring the supernatural power. Then Patanjali also mentions about use of even drugs. Yes, by use of certain drugs, there will be a changes brought about in the nervous system, and the required chemical cocktails may be released, and yes, they may end up making the person perform certain physical feats which are otherwise not possible in ordinary day-to-day life. Similarly, also Patanjali Yoga Sutras also mentions about the attainment of supernatural powers by mortification of the body, by subjecting the body to severe physical punishment kind of a thing. There are people who do attain supernatural powers, but these powers, as I said earlier, they will be more akin to a kind of borrowed loan. They are temporary, and the consequences will be severe, and they are sure to destroy the person spiritually. So this is about the attainment of supernatural powers. Yes, with the supernatural powers, it is possible to restructure the very genetic code, but a yogi may not exercise the option to do so. That is the key thing to understand. He may rather like to lead this simple life which he has been leading all his life. And as far as when we say that there is nothing supernatural, everything is natural, it is basically something like, I'll give you an insight. Today, when we say that, let's say I can lift up certain weight, and I say that this is my capability, I can lift it up. I don't need to give out any mathematics for that. For example, you may find two people with the same similar height, the similar body structure, but capable of performing two different physical feats. Okay, that's because it's natural ability to do that. There's no mathematics involved in this, neither any release of special chemical cocktails in the nervous system. Probably the person may not even feel that he has any additional power than the others because it is so natural to him. So, similarly, when the karma is eliminated, neutralized, the spirit starts realizing its divine nature, that it is all powerful, then everything becomes natural to it. It is from this perspective, it is said that there is nothing supernatural about supernatural powers. Of course, nowadays we hear of modern science come out with the concept of neurochemistry. When certain things are performed, certain neurochemicals are supposed to be released in the nervous system, which lead to the person performing certain feats beyond his normal capability. And further, there are scientists still trying to experiment and evolve, wherein they're talking about kind of a unified response. That means when let's say a person has done something and managed to release certain cocktail of chemicals in the central nervous system, he would like to perform certain physical feats which are beyond his ordinary capability of the body, of the flesh and blood. Now, the unified response theory, they talk about the strengthening of even the muscles and the bone also temporarily, so that the person can perform those supernatural feats. So let's not dwell into that. I think I've tried to cover it in one of the video earlier. We'll talk about it more in future. We'll dive more into that. But all said and done, wherever any supernatural phenomena is being manifested, there is a mechanism underneath that. Call it release of chemical cocktails in the nervous system, or call it manipulation of those chemical cocktails, resulting in maintaining an integrity of the body, so that body doesn't break when the certain supernatural feats are performed. And nowadays people are talking of the so-called concept of plasma theory and all that, wherein a certain chemical cocktail is released in the central nervous system. It is not the body which responds, rather the energy of the body around the body, which is now going to respond and perform those so-called supernatural powers. So, from this point of view, what is today neurochemistry may be something like biophysics in the future, but that will be a topic for some other day. But all that I wanted to basically convey to you all is uh, the manifestation of the supernatural powers doesn't necessarily mean that the person is going to restructure his genetic code, although it is supposed to be theoretically possible. The reason being, the genetic code itself is the gross manifestation of the karma. If a person has carried forward a certain amount of karma into the current life, there is a genetic code associated because of that, because of which he is inheriting a particular kind of a body structure, health, etc. Now, what happens if the karma itself is now neutralized by yoga practice? Theoretically, it stands to reason the person should be able to restructure the genetic code itself. Let me quote even the words of Swami Vivekananda, the great saint who lived in the beginning of the last century. He himself admits that each and every cell is going to get restructured as the spiritual growth takes place, which means as the karma is neutralized. But yogi may not opt for it. He may leave his body as it is. Just like a person leading a simple life, although he may be having plenty of cash in his bank account. That's all I wanted to speak to you for today. And next time we will dive more deep into the similar subjects. Thank you very much. All the best.